Ed Sullivan's arch-nemesis, the singer he despised. Ed Sullivan was one of America's most beloved TV hosts. He was a global favorite as the presenter of The Ed Sullivan Show and had a knack for choosing the next great talents to appear on his program as their big break. Despite his high ratings and global recognition, the celebrity had many secrets, including several feuds with his most famous visitors. Please recall the astounding real tale of this TV legend's ascent to prominence. Star born. On September 28, 1901, in Harlem, New York, Edward Vincent Sullivan was born. He was raised in an Irish-American family that loved music and culture. Early on, Sullivan knew he would be a star. He started acting as an athlete. He won baseball, basketball, and football for his school. Young love. In his youth, Sullivan became close connections with his colleagues on the field. He became an anti-racism advocate after playing with teammates and opponents of various ethnicities in team sports. However, his athletic youth was filled with passion and sorrow. Ed Sullivan and Olympic swimmer Sybil Bauer became engaged when he was young. Sullivan was distraught when Bauer, 23, died of cancer in 1924. The future TV star would have another shot of love. Another chance. After 2 years, Sullivan's heart started to mend after losing Sybil Bauer. By the time he met Sylvia Weinstein, he was ready for romance again. Weinstein lied. Sullivan was Solomon since her Jewish family disapproved of her marrying the Irish Catholic. Finally, the family discovered the truth, and the pair married under their own identities in 1930. Weinstein didn't know her husband would become a Hollywood legend. Baby Betty. After marrying Weinstein, Sullivan easily settled into pleasant home life. They realized his beloved wife was pregnant after a month of their marriage. In 1930, they had a daughter called Betty after Sullivan's mother, who died months previously. The new parents had no clue they were about to join a Hollywood world that would alter their lives forever. Good news. After getting married, Sullivan switched from high school athletics to news and entertainment. After reporting sports, he wrote articles for the Evening Graphic and the New York Daily News. He became famous for his New York Daily News column, Little Old New York, on theater and entertainment gossip. By 1941, Sullivan was so successful that CBS offered him to host Summer Silver Theater, launching his career. TV toast. CBS recognized Ed Sullivan's unique hosting skill after his Summer Silver Theater appearance. The executives naturally chose him to headline their new variety program, The Toast of the Town, which would highlight fresh and exciting entertainment talent. His super talent became so famous that the broadcast was renamed The Ed Sullivan Show. Stage presence. One reason viewers loved Ed Sullivan wasn't his professionalism and composure. Sullivan was notorious for being hesitant and fluffing his lines. This made him relatable and likable to the viewers. Some of his behind-the-scenes visitors struggled with his laid-back manner. Star maker. Sullivan wasn't the only breakthrough star of The Ed Sullivan Show. It immediately became the go-to place for bands and entertainers hoping to make it big. Once on Sullivan's program, it was like your first move in the business. Sullivan was known for finding the brightest and most promising talent, and his guests became some of the greatest stars of the period. Even though appearing on his program was a passport to success, many of his guests had private feuds with him. Guest stars. Ed Sullivan is known as a top talent picker. He saw talent in hundreds of performers and invited them to his program to debut. People tuned in to see what fresh artist he was bringing, but he also invited back established performers to play several times. One of Sullivan's most popular recurring performances was Señor Wences and his puppet. However, Sullivan treated several of his visitors coldly and never invited them back. Mindful moments. Ed Sullivan introduced some of the biggest and brightest talents in the entertainment world and raised awareness of serious and important themes in his program. Sullivan asked Broadway director Joshua Logan on his performance in 1953 to discuss his mental disorder and psychiatric hospitalization. This show helped promote mental illness awareness in America, and Sullivan considered it a career highlight. With his innovative program, Sullivan did more good than that. Fighting prejudice. As a high school athlete, Sullivan played with individuals of many ethnicities and backgrounds. This reinforced his belief in tolerance and inclusivity, which he attempted to include in his program over TV bosses' objections. Despite criticism, Sullivan was one of the few hosts to include black performers. With his shows, Sullivan helped the Supremes, James Brown, and Louis Armstrong become musical superstars. True friendship. Sullivan refused to heed preconceptions against the black artists on his program and continued to give them a platform that was frequently denied elsewhere. Despite criticism from many, Sullivan remained close friends with one performer even after his death. Sullivan, a close friend of Bill Bojangles Robinson, paid for his funeral. Difference-making. Years later, a TV broadcast revealed the reality behind Sullivan's show and his efforts to challenge bigotry and establish black musicians' careers. Subdivision examined how Sullivan's equality and anti-racism activism affected American culture and beyond. Black artists including the Jackson 5, Marvin Gaye, Lena Horne, Smokey Robinson, Nat King Cole, and Ray Charles broke through on the program. The King. Another Ed Sullivan Show milestone occurred in 1956. Rock and roll swept across America on September 9th, becoming the generation's music. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, made his debut. Because of its popularity, 86.2% of the country watched this famous performance. Although Sullivan launched the careers of several great artists, his private feuds threatened to ruin others. Magic making. It became evident that Ed Sullivan was the ultimate mogul of identifying mega successful entertainment stars. He possessed a sixth instinct, recognizing which performances would appeal to his audiences and providing them the opportunity to become famous. Beatlemania. Ed Sullivan hosted a Liverpool band in 1964. This band, popular in the UK, wanted to break America with this performance. Can you identify who it was? Indeed, this British quintet was the Beatles. The Beatles' maiden performance on Sullivan's program garnered 74 million viewers, over a third of the U.S.'s population, 191 million. Superstardom. Not simply visitors became celebrities after appearing on the program. Sullivan was one of the most beloved stars of American television at this time, with his ratings rising every time the program aired. The program had over 12 million regular viewers by 1954 and 14 million by the 1960s. Sullivan's popularity was obvious, but behind the scenes, things were becoming worse. Fans or foes? By now, Sullivan was a household name on American television. His name was also connected with success. Getting on Sullivan seemed to guarantee celebrity. Despite his brilliance and popularity, Sullivan was known behind the scenes for battling visitors who didn't perform or behave properly. Once you lost the star's favor, you could be sure your show invitation was revoked. Not good friends. Sullivan was known for being the greatest talent picker and entertainment launchpad, but he was also notoriously sensitive and a grudge holder. Buddy Holly's appearance on the program was renowned. Sullivan purposely mispronounces Holly's name when he introduces him, creating tension. Meow. What caused this public insult? He supposedly begged Holly to tone down portions of his song "Oh Boy's" more racy lyrics, but Holly refused. This was the first of Sullivan's many entertainment feuds. Diddley Squat. The legendary musician Bo Diddley was another Ed Sullivan rival. Bo Diddley was confused about which song he was scheduled to perform on stage before his appearance on the program, so he played two, or would have if Sullivan hadn't cut him off after the first one. Infuriated by Diddley's failure to obey orders, Sullivan refused to allow him back on the program. Diddley became a huge star despite it. Battle of Fingers. The Ed Sullivan Show hired popular comic Jackie Mason to a six-appearance, $45,000 deal a few years after the Bo Diddley incident. This contract ended in 1964 due to an incident. In the finger incident, Jackie Mason pointed at off-camera Sullivan, who assumed he was giving him the bird. Sullivan, who values manners and television etiquette, was humiliated, and Mason's contract was promptly canceled. The two then fought a protracted court fight over the charges. Long-term damage. Mason revealed the finger incident years later. The gesture was in his mind, he told Vanity Fair. He said the claims damaged him for years, even though they struck an agreement 2 years later and he returned to the program. It destroyed my career for at least 10-15 years, he claimed, because in those days, a dirty image got you killed. Today, a disgusting picture makes you famous. Closed doors. Jim Morrison and the Doors performed in 1967, sparking another conflict. Morrison was requested not to sing one phrase from Light My Fire before the concert because Sullivan thought it referenced drug use. Morrison accepted, but when he performed, he sang the forbidden lyric, "Girl, we couldn't get much higher." It may not seem like much now, but Sullivan was upset and banned Morrison from the program for life. Not me, babe. Not just Jim Morrison and the Doors had to adapt their explicit songs to satisfy the Ed Sullivan Show's conservative tastes. Morrison took a risk by using dirty language, but some filtering demands caused disputes before the actions were even performed. Bob Dylan was slated to perform, but was urged to tone down his political themes. Dylan declined and left the show after the dress rehearsal. Keep rolling. Not all Sullivan Show's artists reacted negatively to having their naughtier songs banned or eliminated. On multiple episodes, the Rolling Stones were requested to adapt the words "Let's spend the night together" to "Let's spend some time together." Jagger agreed, but his eye roll on stage while singing the altered lines made it apparent how he felt. Both this and the band's unkempt look angered Ed Sullivan. Famous fights. Sullivan was plagued by celebrity feud rumors throughout his career. Some are factual due to their public arguments on the program, while others are Hollywood legends. Over the years, Sullivan had fights with Walter Winchell, Steve Allen, Frank Sinatra, Jack Parr, Nat King Cole, and Arthur Godfrey. Maybe his unsmiling personality made people imagine turmoil behind the scenes, or maybe it was all true. We'll never know. Multi-talented. Despite his controversial deeds and the feuds that followed, the host welcomed many of Sullivan's visitors with delight and affection. Sullivan also welcomed a range of artists true to his program, not only pop and rock stars. Liberace, known for his eccentric manner and comedic sketches, was a remarkable performer. However, this was hardly the show's most thrilling moment. Tiger Scare. The Ed Sullivan Show's animal tamer, Clyde Beatty, was a remarkable performer for many reasons. Beatty performed with tigers in one of his most renowned performances, but the stage was too tiny, but he did it anyhow with devastating results. Beatty lost control of the creatures, so Sullivan distracted the crowd while they were tranquilized. Star status. Despite his feuds and catastrophic special performances, Ed Sullivan became a Hollywood icon. Although an unexpected entertainment celebrity, his shyness and fumbling demeanor made him more accessible and less scary than other dazzling TV anchors. Sullivan received a Hollywood Walk of Fame star in the 1960s, solidifying his stardom. Sullivan won several accolades throughout the years. Golden Boy. Sullivan was a rather improbable star during his career. Other variety show hosts were smooth and cheery, but he was uncomfortable and unsmiling. Sullivan's solemn visage and uncompromising honesty won over viewers and critics. Sullivan won Golden Globes and Peabody Awards for his work. Still, his unorthodox presenting manner was a hit with critics. The Long Game. One of America's most popular and longest-running TV series is The Ed Sullivan Show. The true longevity of this legendary program will surprise you. Although 22 years is a long time, it gets better. Those 22 years include the great 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. One guy created Hollywood stars throughout each decade. The Millennium Man. Even though The Ed Sullivan Show ran for 4 decades, the number of episodes is even more impressive. Sullivan's program had 1,068 episodes during its run. This run dwarfs even The Simpsons, which has shown just 687 episodes. Ay caramba! That runs insane. Era ending. Despite the Ed Sullivan Show's amazing run throughout the 1970s, viewership plummeted. In 1970, ratings plummeted to 14 million, which seems like a lot, but most American houses had TVs, thus success needed considerably larger numbers. NBC executives ended this famous program when viewership plummeted. It ended an era. Relaxation time. After 22 years in the program, Sullivan must have been relieved to finish it. Even though he was one of the most popular TV stars ever, the job had rocketed him to a level of celebrity he never imagined, and now he needed to relax and enjoy his family. Sullivan was ready for retirement, but tragedy intervened. Secret sadness. Unfortunately, Ed Sullivan's retirement was short-lived. His family found his uncommon and serious esophageal cancer in 1974. The family and physicians decided not to disclose the adored TV star, now in ill physical condition, the full scope of his illness to safeguard his emotional health. Sullivan deserved a peaceful death after serving the business. Goodbye. On October 13, 1974, Sullivan died at Lenox Hill Hospital in New York, weeks after his fatal prognosis. He was so liked that nearly 3,000 people attended his burial at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. Even though Sullivan had numerous feuds, stars who were thought to be his adversaries came out to honor him, shocking many. Mason mates. Sullivan had feuds and fights with many of the stars that appeared on his program throughout his lengthy career, but many of them came out to commemorate him after his death. Mason told Vanity Fair he was a wonderful guy, noting that his argumentativeness sprang from insecurities. He was the nicest, classiest man off the show. On stage, he got passionate and frightened before each show. He was uncomfortable and attempted to polish the show. Special place. Although Sullivan died over 50 years ago, his impact and effort on Hollywood continue. Today, other prominent entertainment programs shoot at the spot where Ed Sullivan's show was shot, but never forgetting that he inspired them. Now called the Ed Sullivan Theater, it hosted The Late Show under David Letterman and Stephen Colbert. Reluctant rocker. Sullivan's legacy lives on as interesting and inspirational tales about his renowned show's secrets are disclosed. As everyone knows, Elvis Presley's appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show was a pivotal milestone for rock and roll. Did you know that Sullivan originally resisted having the rocker on his show? He believed his hip thrusting was obscene for his family. Luckily, he changed his mind so we could all see the King's famous performance. Sick day. The fact of Elvis's initial appearance is even more hidden. Observant fans may have noticed that Ed Sullivan didn't arrive on the broadcast that day, therefore he did not introduce the beloved singer. Not because he didn't like Elvis, but for a more dramatic reason. Sullivan was hospitalized after a terrible vehicle accident and couldn't present the program that day. He watched the concert on TV from his hospital bed. Pop's Top. Sullivan introduced several future and current performers to his program during his lengthy career. Some concerts were so successful with fans and artists that several stars returned for repeats. Did you know that opera soprano Roberta Peters, known for her work with the Metropolitan Opera Company, made the most appearances? Overall, Peters appeared 67 times on the program. Wowzer! Lasting impression. Sullivan's impact goes beyond how affectionately and proudly Americans recall his show's classic moments. Many entertainment artists still associate with Sullivan's renowned and unique personality. Famous impressionists like Jerome Patrick Hoban and Nick Toth have captured his unique characteristics. Hoban and Toth's careers are built solely on mimicking Sullivan. Movie frenzy. Comic and actor Will Jordan was another Ed Sullivan impersonator who built a career. Jordan played Sullivan in many movies, impersonating the renowned host on The Ed Sullivan Show. His performance was authentic and amusing. These films were I Want to Hold Your Hand in 1978, The Buddy Holly Story, also 1978, The Doors in 1991, Mr. Saturday Night in 1992, and Down with Love in 2003. Sullivan's charisma launched his career and many others. Approval stamp. Despite the passing of time, Americans still adore and remember Ed Sullivan. In 2009, the early TC Memories postal stamp featured the famous star again. Only stars or historical individuals of high esteem or cultural relevance appear on postage stamps. Therefore, this shows how much Ed Sullivan was liked and admired. In the family. Sullivan's legacy extended beyond TV and national audiences. His family was equally important to the artist. Betty, his daughter, married Bob Precht, an Ed Sullivan show producer. They had a close familial relationship on and off screen, and future generations would witness it too. Caring dad. Ed Sullivan was a loving father and husband to Betty. Sullivan was thrilled when Betty and Bob Precht married and had children, making him a grandfather. Even now, his descendants remember Sullivan's kindness and good spirit. He always had time for his fans. Sullivan's grandson, Robert Precht, told Closer Weekly, "Kids were running down the stairs for his signature, and he was kind." Loved husband. His grandkids have also remarked on Sullivan's loving and happy marriage to Sylvia. They had a very good marriage, and she was his biggest fan. Margot Precht Speciale, another Sullivan granddaughter, said, "Sullivan was loved by his family and friends as much as the American people." In addition, she would subsequently share truths about their life that proved why he was so charming on television and off. Down to earth. Sullivan's granddaughter, Margot Elizabeth Speciale, also highlighted her strong relationship with her celebrity grandfather. Ed Sullivan was her kind grandpa, she told Closer Weekly, despite his international celebrity and wealth. "He was a big deal to America, but to me, he was just grandpa," she said. "I remember being on the couch in our living room and him doing little magic tricks and pretending to take his thumb off." Living legacy. Ed Sullivan is a normal guy with a special skill. He became one of the greatest stars in American television history and generated numerous others by detecting their brilliance, but lacking a natural sense of star quality. Our motivation is his huge effect on American TV culture, making and breaking stars, adhering to his convictions, fighting racism and mental health taboos, all without a grin.